Hello there, my A-level PE students. I hope you're not getting too bored with me talking about the different ways we can classify skills, but we're going to move on right now to talk about the continuity continuum. So it's not too expressive of the meaning of this, but basically in this continuum we've got three states. Rather than there being sort of the two extreme ends, we've kind of got three states. We have what we would describe as a discrete skill up at this end. By the way, someone else could represent these continue the other way round, by the way, so don't be too shocked if you see them flipped, as it were. But here we have discrete skills at this end. At the other extreme end, we have what we describe as continuous skills. Continuous skills. Continuous skills. And in the middle, or at least represented in the middle, we have what we would describe as serial skills. Serial, notice spelling being different to that food that you eat for your breakfast. All right, so let's address discrete, and once we've done that, I think we'll start to understand the nature of this continuity continuum. When we talk about a discrete skill, and I've talked about this example of a hockey penalty stroke or a hockey penalty flick, we would say that it has a very clear beginning and end, a very clear beginning and end. Okay, so we can actually discern when the movement begins and when the movement ends, because of course the performer steps up, they draw their stick back. Well, in this case, no, they hold their stick against the ball and then they push their stick against the ball and the ball travels away. That's the end of that movement. Okay, so it has a clear beginning and end. And because of that, we can also say that if they want to do it again, they have to start the movement again. So they have to start again if required. So if somebody, if the umpire said, okay, an illegal stroke, we're going to take it again, you'd literally have to set up the scenario again to produce the movement a second time. So start again if required again. Okay, so it's not like the movements loop into one another, they literally start again. So how does that differ? Let's go to the other end. How does that differ from something like a continuous skill? Well, something like cycling, track cycling, road cycling could have easily put in running, track running, for example. We'd very simply put that a continuous skill has no clear beginning and end. I know you can say to me, well, James, I've seen them in those little gates, and yes, they do have a clear beginning and end to the race, but the technique itself, the skill doesn't. Literally, they turn their pedals over and over again, okay? So the end of one movement is the start of the next. In fact, actually, let's write that in. The end of one movement is the start of the next. End of one movement is the start of the next. Okay, so have a think about that. Think that, the cyclist pushes forwards and downs on the pedal, and then obviously they're able to pull upwards and backwards on the back turn, and they're able to push downwards and forwards again. So it's literally a rhythmical experience of pushing those pedals around over and over again. There's no clear beginning and end to the actual technique. So what then is this serial business? Well, I've talked about this is what we'd call a floor routine here, by the way, in gymnastics. And if we think about the floor routine, we have a circumstance whereby there are numerous discrete skills linked together to perform a routine. We find the same with something like a triple jump, right? You've got your run up, you've got your hop, you've got your step, you've got your jump, and of course then you've got your landing. You've got all these discrete skills added together to perform a serial movement. Okay, so let's first of all get our definition. A serial skill is a linked series, and think about the word series because of course it is effectively the same as serial, linked series of discrete skills. Okay, so basically in our gymnastics floor routine, we could take a balance, we could take a roll, we could take an agility move, and we could link them together and produce a floor routine. That's what we mean by a floor routine. So the word routine is a very important one within this particular circumstance because we put a very specific order together of different discrete skills to make a serial skill. That is all from me. Thanks for listening.